In section 3.4, we're working with transformations of functions. And so here I have an example where I have the parent graph here, and the parent graph is named f of x. So this graph I have here is f of x. Now we have a transformation of f of x that is described here. And what we're going to do is use this, and we're going to describe the transformations from the parent graph, f, and then we're going to graph g of x using what we know about transformations. So we're going to start out with our g of x, and you notice that right here we have this 2 that needs to be factored out. So we're going to write a different version of g of x where we factor out that 2, and we get negative 2 times f of 2 parenthesis x plus 2 plus 3. Okay, now that we have that, we can go through and find a, b, c, and d and talk about the transformations of each one. Okay, so a is going to be this value here, our 2. So a is 2, and what that does is it's going to give us a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. And then we see b. Now you have to make sure you factor out that first 2 in order to get the correct b. So b is going to be 2 also, not the original 4 that was there. b is 2, and so that moves, since it's positive, we're going to move left. It's the opposite. Left 2 units. All right, and now we're looking for c. C is negative 2, and the fact that it's 2, so we look at the absolute value and it's 2, and so what that means is going to be a vertical stretch by a factor of 2, but it's also negative, so that means it's going to reflect us over the x-axis. All right, and then we have one left, and that's d, and our d value is 3, and that's going to move us up 3 units. Okay, so what we know so far is that A and B are going to be our horizontal transformations, and we know that C and D are going to be our vertical. And so the horizontal, we are dealing with our x values, and our vertical, we're dealing with our y values. So we're going to use that now to come up with some of the coordinates. So let's just save this. Get this out of our way for a minute. Let's actually put this over here. Okay. All right, so we have our graph f of x, and now what we're going to do is we're going to come up with the coordinates for this. So since it's not an equation we can use our calculator like x squared or something like that. The parent graph we're going to find the coordinates of these critical points here. So it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very important points here, and I'm going to write those down and use those to start. So this is the parent graph, and those are going to go in the center. So my x and my y values, and the coordinates for those are negative 3, 0. That's the first one. And then the second one I have up there is negative 1, 2. And then the next one I have is 1, 2. And then the next one 2, 4. And then the next one is 8, negative 2. And again, all of those are coming from here. Those 5 points. So I have 5 points to start with. All right, so now that I have my t-table set up, we're going to go through and take care of each of the transformations one by one. So let's pull this back down and take a look at it. We're going to take care of the horizontal transformations first, and we see our A is a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. So that means that we're going to take this and multiply by 1/2. Okay. So we take that x value, multiply by 1/2, I get -3/2. And it's actually, you can use -3/2. It's probably going to be better to use decimals in this case. So I'm going to say -1.5. And then I get -0.5. And I get 0.5. And then I get 1. And then I get 4. And that's by multiplying all of my current x values by 1/2 that I get that. So now these x values no longer exist. This is my new set of x values. So that took care of my A. Now I'm going to take care of my B part. The B part says that I am going to move left 2 units. So that means I'm going to subtract 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from the new x value. So if I subtract 2 from each of those, then I'm going to get -3.5. And I'm going to get -2.5. And I'm going to get -1.5, -1, and 2. Okay, so I've subtracted 1 from each of those. And now that I have that, I've taken care of my horizontal component. And now I'm going to go through and take care of the vertical piece. So that's going to be changing my y values. So those, we have our x values. So our y values, the first thing is I have a vertical stretch by a factor of 2 and a reflection over the x-axis. So what that means is that I just need to take this y value and multiply by -2 to come up with a new y value. When I do that, I get 0, -4, -4, -8, and 4. All right, those are my new y values. These are no longer good. And then the last thing is I need to move up 3 units. So that means I'm going to go from here to here. And this is my, so this was my C. This is my D telling me add 4. Okay, so when I add 4 to that, I'm sorry, add 3, not 4. I'm going to get 3, -1, -1, -5, and 7. Okay, so now I have the coordinates, my x and my y values, and I can go and I can plot those to come up with a new graph. So let's do that on the next sheet here. And we're going to enlarge this to do it, because that graph is going to be a little bit, more difficult to do. So let's take okay, so those are our coordinates. We're going to enlarge our graph. My graph seems to want to disappear on me. Okay, let's get rid of this. I'm not sure what's going on with my graph, so let's go back and find it from the previous page. Okay, here we go. So I want to get a bigger graph here so that we have an easier time graphing this. Okay, so now I have my points. We have the original graph on here, f of x, and now we're going to graph the transformation that we have. So the first point we have is a -3.53. So we have the origin here, so -1, 2 is about right there. That's our first point. And then we have -2.5, -1, is here, so I'm going to go ahead and connect those two. And then I have negative 1.5, negative 1, and here. And so you can see that it's sort of mimicking the parent graph. And then I have negative 1, negative 5. And that's here. And then I have 2, 7, which would be here. And there we have the graph of the transformation. Okay.